pictures of us doing stuff because we're
Thank you,
always
Kim.
doing stuff.
So I'm Bill Courtright. The glasses are to make me look cool, all right? No, honestly, I had a cornea transplant. So the lights are a little bit hard on my eyes, so I'm not going to try to be cool. I'm just going to wear the glasses, okay? So one of the things, we're going to cover a lot of information today, and I want you guys to know that we're going to send Kim a PDF book. Each one of you will get it. That'll give a further explanation of what we teach today. Because Bruce and I, we teach this in workshops that are 3 or 4 day workshops. And so, let me start my timer so I keep everything on time. So we want to make sure that you get everything and don't leave, and that way, if you have questions on things, it will really explain it. So, what are we going to do today? I would like to accomplish 3 things with you all today. One is, I want you guys to understand what stress is. Now, normally, we give a lot of talks. We do a lot of corporates. Around the world, we speak in corporations. And they're pretty stressed out in normal corporations. Now, we know Unity doesn't have stress like that. But other corporations, they're very stressed out. You guys don't have, right? No stress, correct? You guys are good? Forget about it. So stress. How many people have stress? How many people have stress in their lives? Okay. So here's what we want to accomplish. Bruce and I would like to make sure that you guys first have an understanding of what stress is. Because I have spent the last 35 years studying stress. I am considered one of the world's most foremost experts on the subject. And I want to pass that knowledge to you so you understand what stress really is. Because people really don't know what it is. The second thing we want to accomplish is we want to make sure that we give you the tools that you can master stress. Very different from stress management. We want you to master it. And then the third thing we would like to leave with you is an understanding that stress is an illusion, it's not even real. So it's going to be kind of a weird talk, right? So you know, you're probably saying to yourself, what do you mean it's not real? You're going to understand as we go through our presentation. So we're going to talk a little bit about flow versus force. Now, you guys have heard of the term in working in flow, right? You guys, has everybody worked in flow one time or another in their life? Been in sports or anything where they went flow? So flow, working in flow, it's seamless. Time seems to stop, everything is good, you're not stressed out, you get a lot of work done. Have any of you ever worked in force? Anybody in here? Poor Unity, man. Bruce, when they we're bringing us in, I told Bruce, what are we going to Unity for? They don't have any stress. Was I wrong? So I guess so, but we're going to fix that today. So when we talk about force versus flow, it's very important to understand what stress is, because this is where people get confused. Stress is when you're disconnected. So we have a thing we teach, head, heart, and hand. And I know not everybody's Unity here, but you would understand that. It's what we teach also. But I will always give you the science behind everything, because I'm the scientist. Bruce is a storyteller, much more entertaining than me. But I am the science. Everything I do is science-based. When we talk head, heart, and hand, that's connection. When people work from head to hand, they are forcing their life. And you have to understand what happens to us and why this happens. So the head is really important. The head is where we gain knowledge. It's where we get clarity. It's where we set plans. It's really important. The head is also where we hold our habits. The head is where we hold our programs. And the head is where that ego lives. Now, when we work in force, we are cut off from the heart, and we're working from head to hand. So when we're working that way, the hand represents hard work. It's hard. To be successful, we have to work hard. Anybody ever heard that before? That's a horrible program, because you can never win with that program. So we're in a force. So when you look at the energies, and Bruce is going to be going over the energies in this sheet, when you're working head to hand, you're working in those forced, stressed energies. Now, when we connect the heart, everything changes. Because where the head is about clarity, the heart is where your purpose is. Every single one of you were born with a distinct purpose. You were born with it. You've had it forever. And not only your purpose, but your values. And these are your core spiritual values. These are the things that drive you. When you were a child, you didn't have any stress. You know that, right? You know, not a single one of you were programmed with anxiety, overwhelm, fear, or stress. None of you were. None of you were born with that. It all came in the form of programming. And what happens when we get this programming, we cut off our heart. The heart is where our purpose is, and the superpower of the heart is imagination. So I live in between Miami and Orlando. Anybody ever been to Disney? Anybody ever been there, right? Pretty cool place, right? Well, if you travel to Florida and you live in Florida, let me tell you something. It's the ugliest place in Florida. There's no uglier place than Orlando. You got the beautiful beaches of Daytona Beach, the beautiful beaches of Miami, the beautiful areas of Tampa, and then there's Orlando, the swamp. But there was this crazy person who went there and said, no, this is the Magic Kingdom. I don't know what the heck Disney saw, but man, I lived there. I don't know what he saw, but he saw that. That's imagination. When we're little, anybody have children, little children in here? Their imagination's incredible. It's natural for them. And that is the heart. And so when we are connected to the heart, we know our purpose, we know our values, and we use our superpower of imagination. And the tools of the heart are gratitude and faith. When that is connected, we then work from head, heart, hand. And hand changes a lot, because now it's not work, it's service. Big difference, right? And now it's about integrity of the hand. Integrity of the hand is when we have integrity, we do what we say we're going to do for others. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when we have head, heart, and hand connected, it's the integrity of what you say you're going to do. I'm going to start a New Year's resolution, and this is what I'm going to do. And you say it and you do it. It's when we're disconnected from the heart, we have procrastination. There's even a science I will share with you behind procrastinating. Procrastination is a habit. It's a program. And so is integrity. So when we talk about stress, I'll be presenting the science behind it. And Bruce is going to be super coach, Bruce Van Horn. He is an incredible coach. We'll be presenting kind of what goes on in the head. So we talk about survival, and there are two survival responses that every human being has. Now, I'm going to share truths with you. If I say it's a truth, it has to be true for every single human being, or it's not a truth. Okay, we can agree on that? If it's not true for everybody, it's not truth. And there's two survival responses every one of us, every human being has. And one is the stress response, the physiological stress response. I will be addressing that. And the other one is tribalization and the programming that you carry as far as your ego, habits, and actions you take on a regular basis. Bruce will be discussing that. So when we look at these survival responses, you have to understand something about us as a species. For 160,000 years, we survived as gathered hunters. That's how we survived. We were on the move. We lived in tribes. These survival responses that I will talk about are connected to stress because stress was connected to survival. And then 10,000 years ago, we started to transition from being these gathered hunters into the agriculture age, and then into the industrial age, and now where we are today. But it's only been 10,000 years. The 160,000 years are affecting every one of your lives because these survival responses, every single human being has them. And if you don't understand them, you cannot master stress. It's impossible. So I'm going to be talking first about the physiological response called the stress response. Has anybody ever heard of the stress response before? Because most people, when they hear stress, or if the doctor talks to you about stress and things like that, they're usually talking about the stress hormones. This is very different. It's the stress response. So a little bit of my history is I grew up very obese. So I started my first diet at age 9. I lost 100 pounds 3 times because the first 2 times was so much fun I thought I had to do it again. And really the truth is I lost it and gained it, lost it and gained it. If anybody's ever been through the roller coaster, I was through all the roller coaster. Everything changed when I was about 21 years old. Doctor walked in, he looked me square in the eye, and he said, "You will be blind by the time you're 35. I was like, "I'm 21. What do you mean I'll be blind by the time I'm 35? He said, "Your diabetes is so out of control, if you don't do something, there's no way you're ever going to maintain any health." And I knew he was telling me the truth because I could look at my family. I could look at the family. He was telling me the truth. So I went on and I lost 123 pounds. And I tripped. I was in college and I tripped into bodybuilding. I went from being the fattest kid in school to winning 7 bodybuilding competitions. But that's not my success. My success is I've kept the weight off for over 35 years. I'm going to be 57 in a couple weeks. I've kept the weight off for 35 years, and I absolutely eradicated the diabetes from my body. No longer diabetic. And so I've been in the medical field for over 3 decades. I build medical clinics around the world. I've built them in Panama, in Peru, in the Philippines, and we've built very progressive medical wellness clinics, or regular medical clinics in Miami. And what I did was, I've taken thousands of patients in my career. And it started in 1984 because I wanted to understand why I was overweight. Because I'll tell you one thing, I wasn't overweight because I overate. And anybody who's ever had a weight issue, you know, you look at somebody, that's why you gotta be very careful how you judge people when you see them. Because if you looked at me and thought, well, of course you overeat. That wasn't true. It just wasn't true. And what I discovered in the early 1990s was this response is responsible for every metabolic response in your body, every single one. And the one thing you have to understand is that as humans, we are built for one thing only, and that is survival. Your body doesn't know it's 2018. Your body is wired to survive. And these 2 hormones, cortisol and insulin, are the 2 hormones that affect the communication of all the other hormones in the body. So in our medical clinics, we obviously want to see what this is doing. Most doctors won't even know what to look at on that. They just don't know. Because in medicine, they're looking for illness. We're looking for cause. And we can measure every single person and we can see how their body functions. And we can see this response. So when we get stressed out, this response goes off. No matter what the stress is. Stuck in traffic, stress response goes off. You're late for an appointment, stress response goes off. Your spouse is giving you a hard time, stress response goes off. Chased by a saber-toothed tiger, stress response goes off. Doesn't know the difference. So here's what happens. We saw the tiger. The body releases cortisol. Cortisol's job is to prepare your body to fight or flight. So the first thing cortisol does, it shuts down the prefrontal cortex of the brain. This is the part of the brain that makes good decisions and reasons. Exactly. You ever been stressed out and say something and say, "I can't believe I said that"? That's what happens. And so when this goes off and that changes, immediately the body needs a fuel. So the body's sugar levels rise. And what happens is cortisol tells the liver to make sugar. And then the body spikes the hormone insulin to get that sugar into the engine so you could fight or flight. This response all day long is going up and down all day long. It can never be shut off. I don't care what age you are. And it can be managed, but it can't be shut off. If you don't manage this response, you cannot manage any type of wellness. It's impossible. And so, because what happens is that nervous system, when it goes off, there's 2 parts of the nervous system that is turned on. It's either the red zone, it's called the sympathetic nervous system. I dumb this down for doctors, so we'll call it the red zone, okay? Doctors like to complicate things. I speak to a lot of doctors, so I said, let's call it red zone, doc, because they want to complicate it. I want to make it simple. Stress response goes off. Cortisol signals, red zone turns on. In the red zone, you are in fight or flight. It's in the red zone where you procrastinate, it's in the red zone where you sabotage yourself, and it's in the red zone where your ego lives. That's where the ego lives. And so what happens is, this is the way it was supposed to work. We see the tiger, the red zone goes off. You do not think, you react. Okay? You don't want to think. God wanted us to survive, so he didn't want to sit there and count the stripes on a tiger. He wanted you to get the heck out of there. And the way stress is supposed to work is, once I get out of harm's way, the stress response has an opposing response called the pause plan response. Listen to those words, pause plan response. And this is when the parasympathetic nervous system turns on, our green zone. So the red zone got us out of trouble. It's the green zone where we discovered fire, invented the wheel, and created tribes. That's where we grow. It's in the green zone when you get a nice massage and you feel calm. It's in the green zone. You ever notice your best ideas come in a shower? You ever notice that? Why? Because the moment that water hits you, the nervous system switches over. It's in the green zone that's turned on when we meditate. That's the green zone. So when we look at these different types, when you're in the red zone, you've got to understand this. Because when you're in the red zone, all aspects of wellness is shut off. You have increased stress hormones. The digestive system is shut off. If you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, you don't need to digest lunch. You need to get out of there, right? So digestion is shut off. The immune system is shut off. The kidneys, instead of having the water go out, pushes the water up to push the blood pressure up. Anybody who's ever been treated for blood pressure, the first thing we do with them is put them on a diuretic. And the reason they have high blood pressure is they're stuck in the red zone. So all aspects of wellness shut down and you gain weight. And the reason is we are built for survival. Your survival fuel is fat. So when you're in a red zone, the body is not going to burn fat. Why? Because it doesn't know why it's stressed out. It only knows how to survive, and it doesn't know the next time it's going to eat. So it shuts down your entire metabolism. Metabolism is energy. And I've told you, I've looked at hundreds of thousands of labs in my career. I'm going to tell you this. There is no such thing as a slow metabolism. It's not real. Your metabolism is either on or it's off. An on metabolism is burning fat for energy. An off metabolism is not burning fat. It's that simple. In the red zone, you cannot burn fat. So if people are stressed and they're not managing the stress response, they're stuck in that red zone. And so the definition of wellness is your body's ability to recuperate each day. Every single day, your body either repairs or it breaks down. So in our clinics, average age patients, 70 years old. And every one of those patients, we would get off medications. And it wasn't magic. It was, I have a 75-year-old diabetic, I create a program, and I get their body to repair. And if I can get them to repair, guess what? They don't need the medication anymore. Now, I can have a 30-year-old who's stressed out, and their body's breaking down, and they keep breaking and breaking and breaking, so they're going to have disease. And that's how disease starts. So when we're in the green zone, everything's changed. In the green zone, the parasympathetic nervous system is turned on, and this is turned on when we manage that stress response. And so in the green zone, this is where we burn fat. In the green zone, this is where we have clarity. And most important, it's in the green zone where we have connection. It's where we have the ideas. This is where everything's functioning right. And the challenge we have is stress management doesn't work. Because if you go and get a nice massage, and you're in the green zone, and you come out of your massage, and you get in your car, and you stress out about traffic, guess what? You're right back in the red zone. The idea is to live in this zone so we can live in this, and this is where all wellness starts. You got to understand that stress is disconnecting us. It's disconnecting us as people, and one of the things that it disconnects us from is our own body. You see, for spiritual awakening, we have to be connected to our body because you feel everything through your body. Am I right? If you're sad, where do you feel it? If you're happy, where do you feel it? How can you feel peace if you have no connection with your body? So my greatest success is definitely not losing weight. My greatest success is I've kept it off for 35 years and I don't diet. Because that's what you're going to learn today. It's not dieting and exercising. In fact, anybody in here ever want to lose weight? I'm going to give you the secret right now. Anybody want to lose weight? Anybody? If you want to lose weight, here's the secret. You ready? Stop trying to lose weight. And I know it sounds crazy, because that's the truth. You see, connection is by understanding first. This is everything, guys. It's understanding first. Everything I teach you is the truth. You can deny it. Go research it. But I have looked at, when I was developing the clinics in Miami, we took 4,000 patients, all of them over the age of 50, and creating the programs and measuring everything. And it's simple testing can tell me, simple blood work that you get at your doctor's office can tell me, how does your body recuperate? How does your body process foods? And how does your body handle stress? Because everybody's different. And those are the factors that determine what is the right thing for you to manage the physiological stress response. And so there's no guesswork when it's done right. Now, here's the thing. Genetics are nothing but programs too. My whole family was obese. I'm not obese. My kids aren't obese. How come? Because when you believe you have bad genetics, you have bad genetics. And here's one thing I will tell you. Are genetics real? Of course they are. I look at genetic testing, but your habits overrule your genetics. So it doesn't matter. Am I ever going to gain the weight back? Nope. You know why? Because my lifestyle and everything I do is who I am. I don't diet. That's who I am. My exercise is who I am. It's understanding who you are. This connection is everything. So we look at connection. It's about head, heart, and hand. When you're in the red zone, you can't connect the heart. It's impossible. Because the sympathetic nervous system can't connect the heart. It's in a survival. It's in the past or the future. It's about reaction. So the stress response is key, and it's always going to follow the laws. And we'll talk about the laws here today too. But that's the first response. Now the second one, Bruce Van Horn's going to give that to you right now. Let me set you up, my man.
It works better if I put it in my pocket. All right, how's everyone doing? Good. Do me a favor. Stand up.
Told you we're going to exercise.
Yep, you're going to exercise. See, I should always go first, because whenever I listen to Bill, I get so caught up in it, I totally forget what I'm supposed to talk about. So I should start going first. Anyway, so stretch a little bit. Yeah, do some stretching. And while you're stretching, let your imagination kick in here for a minute. And, you know, we live in a beautiful place, and I understand that here in Kansas City and places around here, we have some eagles, right? I've got some eagles where I live. I love to watch these birds fly. Any of these, the predator birds, you know, not the scavenger birds, but the eagles, the hawks, the falcons, they're just so beautiful. So keep doing it. I'm sorry if I'm stretched. You know, you keep them up here. But imagine for a minute, just while you're here, just go ahead and just fly for a minute. You are an eagle. You are a beauty. Just get into that role. Just imagine yourself soaring thousands of feet above Unity, and you're looking down at the fountains and the buildings, and you're just taking in the beauty. You're feeling the warm air, and you're just soaring on it. Okay? Can you get there imaginatively? Can you just step into that? Okay, so now as you're flying along, let's suppose that you've flown out over the ocean. There's not a lot of ocean around here, but work with me. You've flown out over the ocean, and you're looking down into the water, and you see a lobster. And you start thinking to yourself, wow, that lobster lives way down there underneath the water. It's got that really hard shell. I'm up here where the air is light and I can soar, and I've got these soft feathers, but that lobster has all of that water pushing on it, and it's got to scurry around rocks. And then this little thought occurs to you, wait a minute, I'm a lobster. What am I doing being an eagle? Now, the minute you start thinking that thought, how are you doing being the eagle? It's a struggle now, right? Go ahead and put your arms down for a minute. And you can sit. You cannot, for any sustainable, we have belief systems, right? And I guess I was supposed to change the slide. See, Bill distracts me. You can't, for any sustainable period of time, perform any type of activity that is outside of your belief system. Would you agree with me on that? Okay? You can't pretend to be the happy-go-lucky, carefree person if you really are the super stressed out, ego-driven, I'm a failure, for whatever reason, you carry these lower level beliefs about yourself, the judgments about other people. Most of the judgments we carry are actually judgments we feel about ourselves. But we can't soar like eagles if we believe we're lobsters. Okay? Now, it's just work with the metaphor. There's nothing inherently better about being an eagle than it is a lobster. But you think about the way lobsters live their lives at the bottom of the ocean, the pressure of the water. They've got this super hard shell. And, so life as a lobster is just very different than it is as an eagle. But let's suppose then that the lobster that's scurrying around on the bottom of the ocean, living life as a lobster, has come to the conclusion that, as long as we're lobsters, can't we all just get along as lobsters? And we might even practice, we might even come up with some type of lobster-esque personal development programs so that we can all be the best lobsters that we can possibly be. Okay? And we can learn how to flip houses and make lobster money, so that we can move into better lobster houses. Okay? But it's still life as a lobster, right? But maybe late at night while you're underneath your rock or whatever, as your life as a lobster, the thought occurs to you that there's something deep inside of you that believes in eagles. Maybe as a lobster, you've never even seen an eagle before, but you believe there's something out there that you're supposed to be other than this lobster. And so you set about trying to be something other than what you and your family, your tribe, this life that you've learned, not only the life that you've learned, but you have this physical shell that you've developed around yourself. So can a lobster swim with the dolphins? No, because it's got this physical shell as well. But as soon as the lobster tries to make some changes, what's going to happen to the lobster? Have you ever tried to break out of your shell, as it were, and be what everybody thought you were supposed to be, what everybody told you you were supposed to be, and now you're acting different than anybody else? How's that feel? Okay. What do you get, first of all? Do you get, go for it, dude, yeah, you're an eagle, get out of here? No, we often get told just the opposite. Wait, no, you can't do that. Our clan, we're lobsters. We've been lobsters for generations. Isn't being a lobster good enough for you? You think you're better than us? We don't even know that eagles are real. None of us has ever seen one. We hear mythology that there is light we see up there, but who knows what's up above the top of the ocean, right? This is the tribalization process that we all go through from the moment we are born. The moment we are born, I'm going to talk a little bit about energy levels in a second, but we are born pure. Empty computers ready to be programmed. Okay? There's a difference between being born in America and being an American, right? Okay? The being an American has a belief system with it. There's a patriotic pride that goes with it. I'm not saying that's wrong, by the way, but it was something that you were taught. Okay? You know, we often think that we were born Christians, or we were born Jews, or we were born Muslim. No, you weren't. You were born to family who adopted those beliefs, and they taught you to be that thing. Okay? Again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but the moment you tried, you got programs installed on your computer system, you started living and operating your life. An operating system of a computer starts operating based on the programs that were installed. When you're a little baby laying in the crib, you're not really thinking about the United States Constitution. You know, you're not thinking about the 5 points of Calvinism or the 12 powers of man. We learn all of those things. Okay? You learn things like, okay, you're a man. Okay, you were born a boy. You went home with a blue blanket. Okay, you're a girl. You went home with a pink blanket. Okay, so we very quickly start to learn gender roles, right? This is how boys behave. This is how boys dress. This is how girls behave. This is how girls dress. In our community, this is the type of work we do. Okay, we tend to be Christians. We tend to be Muslim, or we tend to be nothing. Whatever it is our tribe is what we are taught. Okay? Now, again, some of that's okay, okay? But only when it serves you. And only to the point where when we come to a place in our lives where we start to think that there's more out there, and we try to grow beyond our comfort zone. Okay? It becomes very comfortable doing and being just like everybody else. Okay? But the moment you think, well, there's more life out there, then there's the tribal pressures. There's also the inner dialogue that we start to believe. Okay? There's also the comparisons. We're going to talk about egos in a little bit and the naming of our egos. You know, I was a very small boy for almost all of my life. When I was 16 years old, I was 5'1", 115 pounds. You can imagine how many dates I went on. Okay, I had to sit on phone books to see over the steering wheel to learn how to drive. And so I developed certain self-concepts about myself and about my ability. That it takes energy, it takes fear, and as soon as I decide to make a change outside of my comfort zone, to do something I've never done before, to be something I've never done before, it kicks off the stress response. Okay? Because our bodies are designed to survive, and there can be this thing that goes on that says, well, I've never been a motivational speaker before, and if I do step up in front of an audience and say something, and I say something really boneheaded, they're either going to laugh at me or my reputation is going to be ruined, and so all of this red zone energy will kick in to keep me from ever stepping up here. Okay? It happens every day. So we develop cages, comfort zones. We develop our ideas about what we're good at and what we're not good at based on what other people have told us, or even about our own experiences. So life tends to fall into about 5 different categories: career, finance, relationships, health, and what we believe about personal or spiritual development. And we have our belief systems in each and every one of these areas. And changes in any one of these areas can rattle our cage and send us into the red zone. You know, it could be a manager says, I need this done right now. Okay? Well, that could just be data, right? Or it could be something very personal. Okay? He doesn't think I can get it done. Yeah? Or I have no idea to do it. You know? So we start to develop all of this story around all of these things, and it limits our ability to express ourselves freely, to be creative, to live in that green zone that Bill was talking about. And so as we learn to manage the stress response physically, we also need to learn to manage the stress response and what creates the stress in our lives mentally, psychologically, spiritually, these things that rattle our cages. Because deep down inside, we know that we're not living to our full potential. Deep down inside, we know we are not the fullest expression of what we were created to be. Because we didn't have a lot of say in how we show up right now. But we do. It's just going to take energy and it's going to take courage to step out of our cage. So when we're in, if you've got a sheet with you that has some energy levels. A guy by the name of Dr. David Hawkins did some amazing research on human emotions and energy levels. How many of you think that you can think something and it stays, you're thinking it to yourself, oh, nobody will ever know what I'm thinking? Ever think that? Ever hear the phrase, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? How often does that work out? Not very often. You have no private thoughts. You don't. Every single thought you think is an energetic, it's measurable electronically on devices. Every thought you think is an energy wave. Every feeling you feel is an energy wave that radiates out of your body. It's measurable. You don't have to walk into somebody's house or be in somebody's presence and have them say whether or not they like you. You just feel it. Okay? So there are ego energies, what we call these beta level energies. And so these are all of these energies that are down at the bottom of the list. Everything from shame to pride. When your ego is completely running your life, by the way, and this disconnect between your higher consciousness, your God consciousness, if you will, and your ego consciousness, if all of your life you've been living life as a lobster, so let's call that the beta energy, you've been living at the bottom of the ocean, and you've learned how to live there really well. We learn how to deal with shame. We learn how to deal with guilt and grief and anger. The best you can ever hope for, by the way, is pride. So just be aware of that. These are all the ego-based energies. Okay? Your God consciousness isn't even capable of feeling any of these things. Like fear, for example. Have you ever read a passage of Scripture, whether it's in the Bible, the Tao Te Ching, the Bhagavad Gita, whatever? Have you ever seen anything that even comes close to the phrase, and God was afraid? It just doesn't happen. Okay? It's all ego-based stuff. And so realizing that the higher states of enlightenment are different levels of energy, we've got to learn to break out of beta. More than likely, everybody here in this room, you're probably in the alpha or even higher level. So let's sort of use the metaphor of the lobster has gone through some type of transformation. It has lost its shell, and now it has more of the ability to swim with the dolphins, and has realized that above the surface of the ocean, there actually is air up there. Okay, but what do dolphins experience on the surface of the ocean? What do seagulls flying really low to the surface of the ocean sometimes experience? A big wave comes and smacks the bird in the face and it falls in the water, then it's got to flutter back up into the air again. This theta energy is part of a natural transformation or growth, but it's a very turbulent energy because you're realizing that there's more out there. There's the potential of life as an eagle, but we still carry around in our cage a lot of the programs that keep us down into this beta level energy. So it's kind of riding the waves. And so these theta level energies, first of all, start with courage. So first of all, it takes courage to get up to the surface of the ocean anyway and to start to make some changes. Okay? But then when we get there, we're ultimately going to move into theta. We're actually all born in a theta type state. This is where there isn't really any attachment to the things, it really has become now you are the observer. There are still things going on and you're aware, but you're not labeling it as good or as bad. You know, you can put a baby in front of a saber-toothed tiger and it thinks it's really kind of cute. You know, it doesn't know yet to be afraid. Okay? And so when we meditate, this is a measurable energy wave, by the way. You can hook up EEGs and measure all these things. Deep meditation is a theta state. The mind is very calm, it's very peaceful, yet it is still very, very alert and aware. It's not an asleep mind. And the delta energy is really an enlightenment energy. It is where God, it's where the higher masters of Buddha and Jesus, you know, are arguably maybe our Eckhart Tolle, you know, kind of live in this delta energy. And so we talk about these things, but this is the progression that we ultimately go through. That's basically just what you've got. The beta energy, I just want you to be aware of these though, because the beta energy is always going to create disconnection. It's always going to create a scarcity mindset. Okay? It's always going to create some of an us versus them. A God is out there somewhere. I was just having a conversation with a lady not long ago, and we were talking about some of the struggles of life. And she said, yeah, but Bruce, doesn't God meet you halfway? And I said, no. No, only if you believe in halfway. Only if you believe that there is a distance and that God is out there somewhere. And you know, you've got to meet God somewhere. And that's a belief system. And that's always going to be a belief system that makes you think that there's not enough to go around, or maybe you're not getting what you deserve. It's an anxiety type mindset. And so various people tend to fall. We all experience these wants, by the way, and all wants come from a disconnection from source. They're all ego-based energies. But there's going to be one that is going to be kind of your issue that you deal with. You know, so for me, having grown up as a little person, you can imagine I didn't get picked to be on many basketball teams. Okay? I didn't get picked, you know, to be, you know, on the dodgeball team. So more than likely you can guess the things that I've had to work through in my life tend to be with the want of approval or the want of belonging. Really this want of being good enough. And so there is this understanding that we want approval, we want belonging, we want security, and we want control. The interesting thing, though, is the want energy in and of itself is an energy. So if you're wanting something, what does that imply? That you don't have it. It wouldn't occur to you to want approval if you just always felt approved, right? It wouldn't even occur to you to want to belong if you didn't feel disconnected. And so even the wanting of the thing, Bill and Corp, you know, finds this in the medical clinics. People will show up with this wanting to lose weight. And this wanting, this desire energy is what it is. So it's this 125 desire energy, which means I don't have, or I must get it. It can cause us to do a lot of interesting things. It can cause us to be successful on a plane of competition. But there's always this lack there. Will it ever be enough? And even the wanting of it creates more of it. So very often when somebody loses weight because they really wanted to lose 50 pounds, and then they lose the 50 pounds, and they go, oh, that feels not quite as great as I thought it would feel. Okay? And then they have a new goal to lose more. Or they lose the 50 pounds, and it feels good for a little while, but then something interesting starts happening. They start eating the donuts again. Okay? And they don't realize they're self-sabotaging. None of us actually realize we self-sabotage. We see it in other people. We just don't see it in ourselves. Because the deal is that you got addicted to the wanting to lose weight. You didn't actually want to lose the weight. You wanted to lose weight. And so that kept you on this hamster wheel. And so just be aware that we have the base wants of the ego are these 4. And as you become aware, we're going to talk about this in just a second, the key to any change is always going to be the awareness of what it is that you're experiencing. If you're never aware that you've lived your entire life as a lobster, then it never occurs to you to become the eagle. But if at some moment in your life you become aware that there's this desire to be an eagle, yet you're a lobster, then you can start to go through this change. You've got to step into that courage energy, first of all, to start doing it. But then the real transformation, the metamorphosis into becoming what you're supposed to be, can take place at that point. Okay? And then these things happen. So those 4 wants are most of the things that we experience. Has anybody ever hurt your feelings? Ever said anything that hurt your feelings? Now, if you did the analysis sometimes, now some people will come right out and intentionally say something to hurt your feelings because that's their own weakness or whatever. But just a comment in passing can set you off, right? Okay? I had this happen just the other day. My soon-to-be fiancée was talking about her ex, and she said, "Oh, I wish my ex had been nicer to me when we were married." That could have just gone, right? But I'm like, the ego part of me, the want of approval, says, well, wait a minute, she wishes she was still married. And so you have to identify, become aware, what is this program that just got activated? And then you start to work with it. We're going to talk about that in just a bit. But realize that you can't, these energies that keep us stuck in this beta thinking, they're always operating, whether you're aware of it or not. But then once you become aware of it, is when they start to become painful, and you start to deal with it. And then it takes the courage to actually dive in, to move into the actual process of letting them go. It creates stress. Just a simple comment that wasn't anything I should have taken personally activated a program. I took it personally. And then I had to go through these steps to let it go. And so the next thing that Bill and I want to talk to you about are what we call the 7 steps to stress mastery. That if you will work through these 7 steps, again, they're just like learning anything new, an exercise routine. This is going to feel a little awkward at first. You're going to, even your ego will say, you don't need to do that. Okay? But if you will do these things, you will, you can't help not. Again, there's just the science. It's not opinion. As you master these areas of your life, you will go through a transformation.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bill?
All right, so let's recap a little bit of what we talked about with these survival responses. There's 2 survival responses that are truths. Every single human being has them. Right. And you got to remember, we were wired to survive in the tribe. So the stress response is there so we can physiologically take action when we're in trouble without thought. And the body will preserve its fuel, which is fat. Tribalization is the programming to keep you within the tribe. If you wandered from the tribe during those days, it was a death sentence. You couldn't survive. So that's what happens. Now, when you're born without any programs. It's empty. And so that's why we have to teach. And how do we teach? Repetition. Your name is Bill. Your name is Bill. I'm Mama. I'm Mama. It's repetition, repetition. And when we talk about these states, Bruce and I developed a coaching system, and we go and teach this in corporations and with individual clients called shift coaching. And it's about shifting the state you live in. So when you look at those energies, the beta energies, the key energy or the base energy is fear. Because fear is the energy of the comfort zone. It's what keeps you locked in. Now, if you're locked into the past, then those energies will go down. That's where you have grief and guilt and shame. If you're locked into the future, this is where you have desire, anger, and pride. But all those energies are locking you into a state. It's your source. It's your energy. And so if we understand the law of mind, which you guys do, right? What you think you create, what you feel you attract, and what you imagine you become. And when we coach, we reverse it. What you imagine you become. Because if whichever you're imagining in your mind, you're going to feel, right? So if you're imagining the worst case scenario, you're going to feel fear, you're going to attract more fear. And then your feelings are going to create thoughts, you're going to think fearful thoughts, and that's how it works. And so you're going to find that us as humans have huge powers once we can understand how we work. And so when we talk about the 7 steps, the first 2 steps, diet and exercise, here is what the truth is. We have to repurpose this. The reason to diet and exercise should only be one reason, and that is to manage our nervous system. That's the reason. So if you're eating to manage stress in your nervous system, then you're keeping yourself in the green zone. If you keep yourself in the green zone, you're going to have more energy, you're going to be focused, you're going to be able to be more productive, you're going to feel wonderful, you're going to sleep great, you're going to wake up feeling fresh, and there's only one side effect. There's a side effect to everything, right? The side effect is you'll lose weight. And that's what we have to start to repurpose this. Now, how do you know what to do? So in diet, one of the things is we can scientifically dial this in. And it's simple labs that we look at. And it can tell us, we need to know 3 things. How does your body repair? Does it recuperate? Because that's going to determine how much protein you need and the times you need to eat. Protein repairs the body. And then you want to know, how does your body handle stress? And that'll determine the combinations of food that you eat. And this is very important. You have to know how your body processes foods. Now, there is a wild card food, and that is carbohydrates and sugar. So we saw the stress response, right? Cortisol comes up, and cortisol is very important. Cortisol's job, it should be very high in the morning. And then it should come down mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and should be very low at night. Cortisol's job is to get us ready to start the day, and it's high because it pushes serotonin levels up in the brain. When we don't manage this response, that's what causes depression. No cortisol, no serotonin, you're depressed. No cortisol, no serotonin, you have a lot of chronic pain because cortisol is your natural anti-inflammatory. So that's what cortisol does. Now, the wild card to that is carbohydrates. So, as you know, I'm a former diabetic. I like saying that. And I still know the way my body works is it has issues with sugar. So it doesn't matter if I eat a Snickers bar or an apple, because it responds the same in the body. So if I eat an apple, the sugar breaks into my bloodstream, the body releases insulin, that other hormone, grabs that sugar. And the job of insulin is to drive that sugar into the cells so the body can produce energy. The challenge in my body, in our genetic wiring, is those cell doors are locked. It's the same challenge every woman has after their hormones change, and most men after their hormones change. That's why you gain weight, by the way, after menopause. It's not because of the hormones. Your physiology changes the way it processes foods. And when that sugar can't get into the engine, the sugar in the bloodstream rises. Your body is built for survival. And if you don't get rid of that sugar, you're going to die. So what does the body do? It spikes insulin even higher. Now, when insulin spikes up, it causes inflammation in your body. And like I said, cortisol is your natural anti-inflammatory. So here comes your stress response really high. Now, when it's really high, it's got to get the sugar out, so it slams down there. And it takes the sugar to the liver, and it stores it right around here. Now, the stress response, when that happens, is low. And when it's low is when you're tired. It's when you're going to have pain. It's when your brain is fogged. It doesn't function. it's also when you're going to crave sugar and carbohydrates. If you have craving for carbohydrates and sugar, your metabolism is shut off. When it's turned on, remember, when the metabolism is working, it uses fat for energy. So our bodies are very efficient at storing fat, very inefficient at storing sugar. So what happens is, when the metabolism is shut off, it will not burn fat. So what happens is the body's taking all the sugar to function. And so the brain can only use sugar for fuel. So if your body's not burning fat, it's going to keep asking for sugar, asking for sugar, asking for sugar. That's why you have cravings. When you get it right and turn the metabolism on, you don't have cravings anymore. How hard is it to go on a program when you don't want the foods? People always go, oh, Bill, you got great willpower. I just don't want it. It doesn't take much willpower to walk away from something you don't want. So you've got to understand this, because it's very, very important, because it's a truth. And once you can understand that and you can mold that, you take complete control of your nervous system. Because those are the first two steps. If you can't control the nervous system, you can't reconnect, because we need the body for connection. We can do our spiritual studies, we can do our personal growth, we can do our meditation, but if we don't connect to the body, we can't feel anything. So the body's important for our spiritual growth, because we feel everything through the body. If you're sad, where do you feel it? In the body, right? If you're happy, where do you feel it? In the body. If you're disconnected from your body, how are you supposed to know when you're peaceful? Can't do it. So these two steps, diet is essential, because it's the only way to manage the stress response. No other way. I wish I could give you a magic pill. There's no magic pill, sorry. There's just no way. Only diet. It's the only way to manage it, and everybody's different. Everybody's different, but everybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. That's always been my attitude. And then there's exercise. Exercise, we've been programmed. So when we talk about stress, we're talking about programs. Bruce talked about programs. When a program is activated, it's an energy. So you weren't born with any programs. After age 7, that cage door closed and you had your computer programmed. When you get activated, it's an energy. So if you have an anger program and you're stressed, and anger is your go-to, you ever meet anybody when they're stressed out, they get mad right away? How dare you talk to me like that? It's just like, you ever see that? Well, when that anger program activates, it's an energy. And when this energy releases into the body, right, it creates, and that's when you look at those energies, you'll see the thoughts. And it's trying to get the ego to jump into a story. And that's the way you get stuck in beta. Well, we have programs for stress. And so, how many people know that there's comfort foods? Has anybody ever heard of that before? When we're stressed, right? So for me, I grew up in an abusive household, physical abuse. And my grandparents got me out of that household when I was 7 years old. And when they brought me in, Grandma started taking care of me. Most loving woman I've ever met in my life. You know how she took care of me? How? She fed me cookies, cakes, everything, because that's how she knew how to take care of me. And you want to know something? It works. Sorry, you felt better. Because when these programs are activated, sugar makes us feel better. Because these programs are activated and they're painful. Bruce is going to talk about how we release them in a second here, but they're painful. So I started eating at 7. I was obese by the time I was 9. Because that's what worked. So now when I get stressed in the past, and this is very important, the program would go off for me to eat sugar, stressed out. And we've all been programmed that way. How many of you took your children, if they fell down and hurt themselves or had a bad day, come on, let's go get some ice cream, little Billy. It's okay. And we do that because we want to make them feel better. But the programs we get is, as adults, our programs, we're stressed, we go to food. So we have programming around diet. We think certain foods are bad, certain foods are good, certain foods are this is the best diet in the world, this is the worst diet, you should be a vegetarian, you should be paleo, it's all a bunch of crap, people. You got to know what's good for you. That's what you want to know, nothing else matters. And then there's exercise. Anybody ever hear of this term? No pain. There you go. The worst program ever invented. Because it's not true. It's not real. The right exercise is exercise that your body can repair from. If you're exercising your body can't repair, what have you just done to your body? Stressed it out. Sure, you stressed it out. So there are two types. We go back to our bodies are built for survival during those prehistoric times, right? During the times of gatherers and hunters. There's two types. You're a scout. Bruce is a scout. That means you had to have somebody running ahead of the tribe, right? He's a marathon runner. He's a natural runner. When he runs in the green zone. I'm a protector. That means I had to carry everything. I'm the one who did all the work while he was running around having fun. I had to carry everything, and I had to build stuff, and I had to push things, so I'm good in the weight room. So if I run marathons, I'll get fat. Because if I run, I'm in the red zone. If I'm in the red zone, my metabolism shuts down. My body thinks it's stressed out. Does that make sense to you? So that's why you've got to know these things, because how we have to, in order for us to find that higher enlightenment energy, we have to start with the body. And then we can go into the mind. And so the step number 3 is name your ego. Does anybody know they have a voice in their head? Anybody? Isn't that magical?
Several.
Mine is Barry. Yeah. His name is Barry. Barry's not, he's a little chubby guy. Doesn't like anybody, by the way. Hates people. And he's always right. And so that voice in your head is very important. So why do we have you name your ego? It's one of the most powerful tools you'll ever do in personal development. Because what it does is when that program's activated, it's releasing, the program's going to activate. And it's going to release this energy to your head. And this is the moment of truth. The ego wants to take that energy and turn it into a story. It's the stories that keep us locked in stress. It's not the stressful event. The event is I'm stressed, and if you can see it, I can see Barry talking, and I can say, Barry down. And I can do the next process that Bruce is going to teach. What I do is I break the stream. Anybody hear mindfulness meditation? Do you know that's mindfulness meditation, right? Because if I'm streaming in a story, I am not present. I'm living a story. If I can see that and cut it off, guess what? The moment you see you're not present, what are you? Magical. And when you can name the ego, it really reveals it. Because this is the voice that's telling you, Bill, you've been really good on your diet. Really good on your diet. You deserve a cookie. And so, yeah, you know, I have been good on my diet. You're right, Barry. I think I do deserve a cookie. And so you eat the cookie, and the same voice switches over here and says, now look what you did. You screwed up the whole diet. You might as well just forget it. Just go ahead and eat whatever you want. We'll start again on Monday. It's the same voice. The only way the ego survives is it's got to be in stories. And the stories are either in the past or in the future. They're never in the now. So you got to have diet down, have to have exercise down. Name your ego is step 3, my friend.
Yeah, and so then once you've identified that your ego is talking, you've got the issue going on, you're feeling whatever it is that you're feeling. So whenever how many of you are told it's bad for you to get angry? Right? And so what do you never do? You never get, how many of you never ever get angry? But you do get angry, but then you catch yourself getting angry. Oh, I'm not supposed to do this. And then we just sweep it under the rug. That's not letting it go, by the way. That's saving it away for another day. Okay? And does it ever diminish? No, it grows, because that story writes itself. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. A little, oh, I wish my ex had been nicer to me, can now become this. You know where it goes, right? So the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not real. Catching yourself. So again, all of these energies are always going to come from activated programs. Do you see anything in these higher level energies? Calm, free, awareness. This is like the 600 peace energy, knowingness, perfection. Is there anything in that needs to be let go of? Is there anything in that that's not creative, expressive? Whereas down here in these beta energies, it's all this constrictive, it's it's this want, there's this something I don't have, I need to go get it, by the way. So these are the programs that we need to become aware of and learn how to let them go. Letting them go isn't just keeping your mouth shut. Okay? That's not letting yourself go. But realize that only the ego, only the beta level energies are capable of these stories. Those are the only things that can keep you trapped in a story. So letting them go, first and foremost, the number one thing that has to happen is, what am I feeling? And what would we call that? Awareness, exactly. Awareness is it's the door you have to walk through in order to get anywhere. Okay? So many of us live our lives in this low-level anger about life. Our life just hasn't turned out the way we thought it was going to be. No one's ever going to be nice to me. I'm never going to be good enough. And because our story becomes so complete, we're completely unaware that the story exists. Okay? We are eagles, okay? But we aren't even aware of it because we have such a story, we have such a self-concept that says we are bottom-dweller lobsters, so let's just make the best of it, to the point where it doesn't even occur to you that, oh, I'm a lobster, and I'm choosing to be a lobster. I can continue to choose to be a lobster, but I can also choose to be the eagle or the dolphin or the whatever it is, the fullest expression of what you were created to be. If there's at any point in your life this feeling that you are supposed to be and to express more, it almost never shows up in a desire to get more, by the way. It is always going to show up as a creative. I want to create, I want to do, I want to express in some way. So these beta level energies are keeping you from that. So letting it go, first step is being aware of it. Okay? Then the very first question, it's 4 questions that you'll ask yourself. Number one question is, it's not, how fast can I get rid of this? The first thing is a little counterintuitive. Can I allow myself to feel this? Okay? Sweeping it under the rug is not feeling it. It is not going away. When your body has germs in it, what does your body do to kill the germs? It generates heat. Germs can't live in temperatures much above 100 degrees, so you run a fever. We think a fever's a bad thing, so we run to the drugstore to buy ibuprofen or Tylenol to reduce our fever, which makes the cold last 3 times longer because the body never kills the germs the way the body was designed to kill the germs. Okay? So not feeling the feeling is the same thing. We don't want to feel angry because I was told I should never feel angry. Well, you're feeling it anyway, so feel it. Explore it. Why? Where is it coming from? Sit with it for a minute and just let it be instead of immediately brushing it off as bad. Okay? Don't judge it. Feel it for a minute, whether it's shame, whether it's grief, whether it's a lack of, whether it's a loneliness. It's okay for a brief period of time to allow yourself to feel the loneliness as part of purging it as a program. This is what I'm in search of in my life, is I want to feel every one of these emotions because then I can deal with it to get rid of it so that I don't have to feel it anymore. Because none of those higher level, higher consciousness states of energy feel these lower level pains. Okay? So the next energy is first of all, what am I feeling is awareness. Can I allow myself to feel it? Interestingly enough, a very curious thing happens here. When you ask yourself, what am I feeling and can I allow myself to feel it, where are you in time and space? Right now. You're not trapped in a story. And by asking yourself, can I allow myself to feel it? Look at your energy charts. So whatever it is you're feeling is in one of these lower level energies. Can I allow myself to feel it? Guess what you just jumped into? You just jumped into a 200 courage level energy, which is an alpha level energy. You are on your way up out of the beta state. Okay? You just stepped into courage by simply asking myself, can I allow myself to feel this? Okay? And then the next one, and understand the difference between, I was an English major, so words mean a lot to me. There's a big difference between can I do something and may I do something, right? Can I go to your house tonight for dinner? Well, if I know where you live and I have the ability, I can get to your house. And, whether or not I can make you feed me, I don't know. But may I come to your house is a different. We're asking here, can you? So, can I let this go? Could I let this go? Is you doing an evaluation, an honest evaluation. Do you have what it takes emotionally, psychologically, spiritually to stop telling yourself this story? Okay. The answer might be no, but even that's an honest answer, and that's part of the healing process. Typically, if you're asking the question, you can, by the way. So you can. I am capable of stopping myself from telling this story. Okay? I'll often encounter somebody who says, I am just so mad, I just can't stop thinking about this. And a simple distraction like, what'd you have for breakfast this morning? Oh, well, I had cereal or whatever. But, okay, there you go. You stopped feeling that for a second, didn't you? But then it's right back to the story. You can. Okay? So can I let this feeling go? Could I let this go? Okay? This moves you up into even a neutrality energy. You're moving higher up. I could let it go, or I can choose to keep feeling this for a little while. You're kind of neutral about it. Okay? Then the next one is, would I? Am I willing to let this go? And this is where you really have to decide, what is your ego involvement in this? I understand that if someone broke into your house and stole from you, you might not be willing to say, I forgive you. You can intellectually do it, but sometimes I'll meet somebody who says, no, darn it, I want to be mad for a couple days. And I'm like, well, if that serves you well, blessings on you, do it. Yes, you have the ability to choose to be mad for a few more days. You get to choose that. Hopefully at some point you will choose, you would say, yes, I am willing to stop telling myself this story, which all it is, by the way. Someone broke into your house, you might be upset at that person, but what you're really upset about is one of those four wants. Did this person violate your want of control, your want of security, your want of freedom? So ultimately what you're really upset about is a story about that person shouldn't have done something. Okay? So can you stop telling the story is the key to stop feeling this feeling. And then the next question is when? And it might be, okay, well, when this person pays restitution. That can be your choice if that's the choice that you want to make. Just realize you haven't let it go, because then you've put a condition on somebody else. Well, what if the person never pays restitution? Then you're going to, you're still in a victim mode there. So when could be right now. Okay? Now, just because you've gone through this let go process, and let's suppose that this is anger over some issue, I can choose to let it go. Doesn't mean that I won't ever come pick it up again. Okay? I will continue to come pick it up as long as other programs get activated. So one of the things I actually like to tag down to the bottom of this is, can I get excited about going through this whole process over again? And the answer is yes, because I am on a quest to not feel these things anymore that keep me from being the fullest expression. And so as I keep digging and I keep dredging these things up from the programs of my life, then I'm free. But if I say, no, glad that's over, I never want to go through that again, that's kind of a denial, because what if there's still a program? And you'll find that as you do this, you can find a simple thing to start to let go of. And I recommend that as you do this, start with the simple things. Okay? But then you'll find that one activated program was so intertwined with another activated program. And as they become activated, then we start to deal with them. Does that make sense to everybody? And part of it is that awareness. And is this story that I need to let go of, does this serve me well? Does this move me and the quality of my life forward, or does it hold me back? And do the evaluation that way. What am I feeling? Can I let this go? Am I willing to let this go, and when? Okay. So, the next step in the 7 steps to stress mastery is something that actually Bill developed. I had something on my own that I was working on before I met Bill. They were very similar. But the process that he has developed, again, is much more scientific. I'm kind of more woo-woo story based. But there is a process that you can go through in the process of mastering stress that we call the Green Focus Power Hour. It's something that we do every single morning. We live this. It's not something that we talk about. But for me, it all comes back to a book that I read. I actually read it in high school for some assignment, and then it's like, oh yeah, that was cute, and then put it away. But I came back to it many, many years later, and it's the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Chinese warrior training manual was the practical reason he wrote it. Okay? But there's a lot of really cool truth in this book. But the one that really jumped out for me was that victorious warriors win first and then go to battle, where defeated warriors go to battle and then figure out how to win. How many of us every single day start our day in the red zone? It could be the alarm went off and we hit the snooze button. What's that all about? That's oh God, I'm not ready to start this day yet. You're already the defeated warrior. We start off our day in a procrastination energy. I can't face this day yet. I just need 5 more minutes of sleep. Tons and tons of science has shown that you don't rest during that phase because you're wondering when the alarm's going to go off next. If you actually got up when the alarm went off instead of hitting snooze and started your day, you won't feel any more tired. You'll actually feel less tired an hour from now because you jumped into action. So for me, that's what this process is all about. We tend to start our days in the red zone, in this fight or flight. The alarm goes off, we hit snooze 2, 3, 7 times. Some of us set the alarm an hour early because we know we're going to hit the snooze button 6 times. That's not you, by the way, I know. I hear stories about that, okay? So, but then we're scrambling. We're getting the kids to school or whatever. We didn't lay out our clothes, so now we're figuring out what am I going to wear today. And by the way, ladies, it's easy for you, but look around the guys. We don't just roll out of bed looking like this, all right? It takes preparation, and it's often not appreciated. Am I right, guys? Am I right? But we get into this flurry of we've got to do all this stuff. So the Green Focus Power Hour is a set of practices that we do every day. It takes 1 hour to do it, and I know some of you are cringing at the idea of getting up an hour earlier or finding an hour in your morning. I get it, okay? That's a story, by the way. So each one of these, if you will take 10 minutes, set a timer. So we're not talking about reading, 17 chapters of a book. If you'll read something motivational, inspirational, something encouraging, something that will challenge your mind, get your brain, the creator, your prefrontal cortex activated and thinking about something, it kicks you into the green zone. If you will journal for 10 minutes, there's no right or wrong here. You can write about whatever is on your mind. They can be good things. This could be a great place to start journaling a let go process. You recognize that this program got activated. Whatever it is, if you will write, this engages your body in a connection between your head and your hand. Just 10 minutes. We're not talking about 2 hours of journaling. Affirmations. Do we believe in affirmations at Unity? I affirm that we do believe in affirmations, by the way. And you listen to your self-talk. Okay? Our dominant self-talk is so derogatory. Okay? And it is what we manifest into our lives. If you will actively affirm yourself for 10 minutes. Bill, what is our affirmation?
I am whole, perfect, powerful, strong. I am loving, harmonious, and happy.
What if you really believed that by repeating it over and over and over enough to yourself? Most of the negative things that we believe about ourselves are things that we repeated to ourselves, or somebody repeated, you're stupid, you're not good enough, affirm yourself. Visualize your future. How many of you can see what it is you're going to be doing a year from now, 5 years from now? For how many of you, the idea of thinking 5 years from now just gives you a headache and stresses you out? Okay? We have been taught to join the real world. You've got to stop dreaming, Bruce. It's time to get a job. Start visualizing. You will always become what you imagine. Start imagining for yourself awesome things. Okay? 10 minutes a day of visualization. 10 minutes of simple meditation. It could just simply be sitting still and doing a breathing meditation. Doing a mindfulness meditation where you pay attention. Just a little bit ago, did you hear the bell go off? Okay? Be aware of your surroundings. Meditate for 10 minutes. And then get up and exercise. Do something to move your physical body. It will put you in the green zone. Now, this isn't for me. I'm a marathon runner, so I'm often going to go out on an 18-mile run. That's not what this is. So this is, I wake up this morning in the hotel and I get up and I do some push-ups, I do some sit-ups, I do some squats. I just get my blood pumping a little bit. Do these 10 things every day for 30 days. I absolutely promise you it will change your life. Okay? And then it becomes part of your lifestyle. So the Green Focus Power Hour is just one of the next steps in the 7 steps of stress mastery. And then ultimately it's meditation. Okay? Your Green Focus Power Hour will eventually just morph from 10 minutes to meditation to 20 minutes of meditation to much longer periods of meditation. This is where real peace is going to come from. This is where real health within your body is going to come from, is learning how to meditate. Meditation is not enlightenment, by the way. Learning how to sit in a lotus position. How many of real comfortable in the lotus position? No. Learning how to hold a lotus position isn't meditation, by the way. Okay? It often keeps you from being in a meditative state because you're so crazy uncomfortable. Sit in a chair, meditate, it's all good. Okay? So meditation is step 7, and then Bill will close out with step 7.
So we talked about these 7 steps of stress mastery and we started. So the first 2 steps, diet and exercise, are about mastering the nervous system. That's all it is. The next 3 steps, name your ego, let go, and a Green Focus Power Hour, is about mastering the head. And that's the programs within. Then meditation and finding the now is about taking you into those higher states. So when you look at those energies, and we think about all of us live in a state. You understand that, right? So nothing can rise higher than its source. Nothing. And this is quantum physics. So a rock has a source. A rock is energy, right? But the rock can't become a tree. The tree can't become a dog. The dog can't become a flower. So nothing can rise higher than its source. What's different in the human being is your source is dictated by your thoughts. So you can raise your source at any time, but you have to understand where your thoughts come from. Your thoughts are coming from your programming. So when a program gets activated, it's your energy here, and then it's the thoughts. And nothing can rise higher than its source. So we all have a predominant source. Nobody in this room, if you work in Unity, is in beta. Just don't believe it. Beta is your source is negative. And you kind of have empathy because they don't know they're negative. It's what they think the real world is. That's what they see through their cage. That's your source, right? So as you go into alpha, you're going to ride those waves Bruce talked about. So sometimes you're positive, now you're negative. Now you're positive, now you're negative. And the reason is alpha is connected to emotion. Emotion are programs. And when these programs are activated, they're opportunity because you can never get rid of a program unless it's activated. Impossible. So that's why all personal growth, personal development, any change, you have to go through the ups and downs. Now, if you follow what Bruce was saying and you continue to let go and you continue to do that, eventually these programs release. So if I have an anger program and I release the program, guess what? I can't get angry. You understand that, right? Because I wasn't born angry. So I get rid of the program out of my computer, can't feel it anymore. And here's something. Do you know nobody can make you feel anything? Did you guys know that? When somebody says, oh, he made me feel that way. No, he didn't. You made you feel that way. And that's where you come into stress mastery. That's when you hit that 350 energy and 400 energy. That's a surrendered state. I recommend a book called Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. If you haven't read that book, I guarantee you guys will thank me because it is the most amazing story of what we're talking about. And what it is when we live in this, we're living in theta. So it says you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Who can enter the kingdom of heaven? Children. It's talking about a state. You were born in theta. Theta is the recording state because theta is connected to mind. So when we enter into theta, that means now we're over the ego. So the ego is not controlled. So our conscious mind is over the subconscious. So Barry's hit me with all these programs and I can see Barry. I go, no, Barry, down. I'll deal with this. That's finding the now. And when I find the now, you know it wasn't lost, right? Everybody knows that, right? When I find the now, all I'm doing is turning on the eye of presence. And I'm turning off the eye of identification. Finding the now is stress mastery. There is no stress. There is no problems. There's no good, there's no bad. Life happens. You're present. You never have a problem in the now. Nobody does. And so this is what's great about this program in Stress Mastery. When you enter theta, you don't try to do this. It's not something I'm going to say, I'm going to be in the now. You ever try that? That doesn't work too well. So it becomes your source, your state. You live there. You don't have to try. I don't have to try to diet and exercise. It's who I am. This let go process, I actually let go even in my dreams. It just becomes a practice. It's all practice. And what you have to master are those first 5 steps because people are trying to jump into their spirituality because people want, you know why? If you're entering spirituality to escape from life, you're making a mistake. Because God is good. I've been wanting to say that. I've been speaking for 20 years. I've been wanting to say that forever. I can never say it in a corporation. So God is substance. Substance can only work with the source. So if your source is anger, got to bring in more anger. If your source is courage, got to bring in more courage. God can't work with anything. It's free will. You guys got to bring up your source, and then God will work with you. That's the law of mind. What you think you create, what you feel you attract, what you imagine you become. Imagination is a superpower of the heart. That's the connection of stress mastery. Head, heart, and hand. And life is amazing. It's amazing when you live like that because you actually start to live life and get out of the stories of the head. So Anything you would like to add?
No, we're here to answer.
We're here to answer some questions. If we have time, we're going to let our Kim's in charge.
And I know if
It is 2:30, so if you do need to go ahead. But if you'd like to stay and ask questions, please go.
We will answer all your questions.
for
We have no
those who
place
do
go.
need to go, let me go ahead and say thank you for
Thank you
your
for
attention.
being
I
here.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank you.